And Kaye, as Secretary of NAVA, has welcomed many in this room to the association and is the compiler of Good Flag, Bad Flag. He's brought NAVA greater public attention and engagement, and as you heard last night, an enormously constructive influence on different flag redesign processes, not just states, but municipalities as well. And he's really busy as that movement gathers force and goes further, and that is the subject of his presentation.
Thank you. I want to start with an apology, and the apology is for using the term bad in Good Flag, Bad Flag. I didn't really understand the implications of it 20 years ago, and I chose that title. The title of the book really should be Effective Flag Design, Ineffective Flag Design. But it's just not as catchy. So I use the term bad, and people truly have been misinterpreting the idea of bad design. There are no bad flags. There really aren't any bad flags. But there are flags with ineffective flag design, and we use the shorthand say bad flag for that. But this is my apology to those who misinterpret or misunderstand the idea. So now I talk. In some countries, a central authority approves and registers flags for subnational entities such as states or provinces, and for municipalities as well. However, in the United States, the responsibility for flag design and adoption lies solely at the state or city level, with no federal oversight or coordination. Most U.S. states first adopted flags in the 50 years between the nation's centennial and sesquicentennial celebrations in 1876. The number of states with flags was 9 out of 38. In 1914, 35 of 48 had flags, and by 1926, all states were vexilliferates. Most flags, however, saw little use until after the end of World War II, often only appearing on and in a few major state buildings. While some flags have remained unchanged since adoption, others have been modified or completely replaced. The development of vexillology as an organized discipline, starting in the 1960s in Europe and the Americas, happened to parallel the increased use and display of state flags in the United States. However, vexillologists were seldom consulted or involved in state flag change. Their knowledge and experience were ignored as seals appeared on bench sheets and the names of states were placed on the field, so people will know that it's our flag. These states placed the state name on the field: Arkansas, California, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Montana, Oklahoma, Oregon, South Dakota, and Wisconsin. I like to, when I'm talking to the press, I like to say, well, Kansas's flag on the back says SASDAP, or Illinois, that's Sinilli, or Montana, that's Antna. It always gets a laugh. So scholarship about flags in that era took place after the fact. However, with new interest and awareness in the sister field of vexillography in the past 25 years, experts in flags and flag design have become increasingly involved in minor and major U.S. flag change. In 1999, at the 18th International Congress of Vexillology in Victoria, BC, Canada, I offered to compile a general interest flag design guidebook. And in 2001, it debuted as Good Flag, Bad Flag, first in digital form, then in print in 2007, published by NAVA. It has been translated into 10 other languages, including Chinese. Actually, I have to change that because we just got a Farsi version submitted last week. So 11 languages, and is frequently cited by flag design efforts in North America and beyond. In 2001, NAVA also began a series of major surveys asking members and the public to rate the design qualities of 72 U.S. and Canadian state, provincial, and territorial flags. The subsequent press coverage of the survey reached tens of millions of people. Then in 2004, we published American City Flags, documenting 150 flags, and a similar survey rated their design qualities and received substantial coverage. NAVA would follow up with another survey, over 300 new American city flags in 2022. Then in 2015, podcaster Roman Mars, a NAVA member of 99% Invisible, delivered his TED Talk on city flag design titled, "Why City Flags May Be the Worst Designed Thing You've Never Noticed." It has been viewed over 7 million times and likely sparked the recent wave of city flag redesign, and by extension, may have encouraged state flag redesign as well. The increasing use of state flags during the second half of the 20th century eventually led to more interest in and scrutiny of their designs. Errors in specifications would be corrected. In Nevada, in 1991, NAVA member Jim Farragut successfully promoted a codification of the state flag specifications, which clarified the placement of the state's name. In Utah, in 2011, NAVA member John Hartvickson successfully promoted a revision of the state flag's design to correct a 1922 error that had persisted for 89 years. And two forms of symbols received increasing criticism: Confederate imagery and depictions of Native Americans. By the early 2000s, state flags bearing the Confederate battle flag, which had been co-opted by white supremacist ideology, came under pressure. In 2000, Mississippi voters faced a decision to replace their state flag with a new version. That vote failed. In 2001, Georgia's governor and legislature replaced their state flag with a new version, which was widely derided and in turn replaced in 2004 by a vote of the people. And after many years of effort, Mississippi would eventually follow, replacing its flag through a public vote in 2020. And in the 2020s, state flags depicting Native Americans became targets of change. In 2021, the Massachusetts legislature chartered a commission to examine the use of the image of the Indian below an arm wielding a sword as the central charge on its seal and therefore its flag, although that effort has stalled. Similarly, in 2023, the Minnesota legislature established the State Emblems Redesign Commission to replace its flag seal, which showed a settler plowing the land with the prior owner, an Indian, riding away. And new versions were chosen in late 2023. At the same time, residents of other states began to implore their elected leaders to improve poor state flag designs. About half of all state flags are indistinguishable from each other at a distance, and the people those flags represent called for better symbolism. In 2022, Utah legislators finally succeeded in launching an effort to upgrade the state flag design, abandoning the seal on a bet sheet that had represented the state since adoption. And legislators in Illinois, South Dakota, and Maine also pushed forward initiatives to update their state flags based on design considerations. So now the detailed stories. In Georgia, the new Good Flag, Bad Flag booklet soon saw action with the Georgia state flag redesign effort in 2003. NAVA member Ed Jackson, a University of Georgia professor serving as staff to the Senate committee developing an alternative to the flag adopted in 2001, circulated the booklet to successfully guide members of the General Assembly in their deliberations. And during the process of the design of the new flag and in preparation for the hearing on the bill to adopt it, Ed was in frequent contact with NAVA members Whitney Smith of the Flag Research Center and with me. And a statewide referendum in 2004 affirmed the new flag by a 3-1 margin. In Mississippi, in 2001, voters chose to retain the 1894 state flag design bearing the Confederate battle flag, rather than a new design with a display of 20 stars. NAVA member Clay Moss provided expertise and artwork for the proposed new flag. The 64% to 36% margin appeared to settle the matter for a generation. However, the following years saw increased pressure from inside and outside the state, calling for the removal of a symbol many people found offensive. Institutions within Mississippi began to lower the state flag, and some states, including my state of Oregon, removed it from their 50-state flag displays. Artists and NAVA member Lauren Stebbins designed an alternative. As the granddaughter of the late Senator John C. Stennis, a powerful segregationist who served in the U.S. Senate for 41 years, she brought legitimacy to flag change. Her design, which debuted in 2017, proved popular. It was even offered as a specialty license plate. I helped her polish that design. That pressure culminated in 2020, along with racially driven social unrest nationwide, which tipped public opinion towards flag change in Mississippi. The legislature established a commission to redesign a state flag with a 3-month time. At its first meeting, members received copies of Good Flag, Bad Flag. During its deliberations, Clay Moss again provided expertise and advice to the commission. After his initial presentation, the commissioners asked him to attend the rest of their public meetings to help guide the design process, serving as a second graphic artist to clean up and upgrade designs as they came in. Among the finalist designs chosen by the commission, the second place Great River pattern was created by NAVA member Micah Whitson. And NAVA business member, a complete flag source, a flag retailer in the state capital, owned by Brenda and Jim McIntyre, shared ideas, knowledge, and opinions with the commission members, legislators, and governor, and made test runs of the 3 finalist designs to install on a 70-foot flagpole in front of the old Capitol building. The winning design, with artwork by Clay Moss, shared design elements with the Stennis flag. And in November 2020, voters favored the final flag 73% to 27% and began flying it as soon as manufacturers could supply it. It became official January 11, 2021. Legislators in Utah promoting the concept of good design. Note, this is not removing offensive symbolism. They were focused on good flag design. Began consulting me in 2018. And over successive legislative sessions, lawmakers advanced the effort, spurred in part by the commemorative flag design for Utah's 125th anniversary in 2021. Soon, Michael Green, proprietor of NAVA's business member Flags for Good, created a design in his Better State Flag series and bought billboard space to promote it in Salt Lake City, Utah's capital. Both designs strongly resemble the eventual new state flag and likely influenced public and legislator preferences. When the state established a task force to change the flag, I helped staffers organizing the overall process with strategy advice from the beginning to the end. After the More Than a Flag campaign launched in January 2022, more NAVA members became involved. John Hardvickson, past NAVA president, and Devon Simper, who's the operations manager at Colonial Flag Company, served as full members of the design review subcommittee, providing expert vexillological perspectives. Eric Neistel, NAVA member, helped screen design submissions, educated legislators on vexillography, and attended the design review subcommittee meetings. And NAVA members Brian Cham and Alan Hardy both supplied detailed analyses of proposed designs to the legislators driving the effort. And I had the honor of moderating the final meeting of the design review subcommittee, which narrowed down 20 semifinalists to the handful from which the legislative task force chose the winner. And as the final design was modified in the last days of the process, Utah's Department of Cultural and Community Engagement asked Brian Cham to advise the staff's designers on the specifications of the new flag, including the proportions, alignment, and color shades. The resulting flag became official March 9th, 2024, more than a year after its adoption. The legislative champion of the new flag, State Senator Dan McKay, received NAVA's Vexillological Award in recognition of his efforts, and he's now a NAVA member. And here in Minnesota, in 1989, NAVA members Lee Harold and Bill Becker launched a grassroots effort for a new Minnesota state flag, proposing a new design, which they called the North Star flag. For over 30 years, they advanced the concept of flag change, promoting it in the press, maintaining a website, spurring legislators to introduce bills year after year, and working the crowds at public events such as county fairs. The design won a newspaper contest in 2001, eventually becoming an unofficial alternate state flag offered for sale by NAVA members, Herald flags, and Flags for Good. And the North Star flag heavily influenced the design of the city flag of Duluth, adopted in 2019, which ultimately and ironically likely led to its rejection for consideration as a state flag. In the past decade, a new generation took up the redesigned cause on social media, and eventually, when the Democratic Farmer Labor Party gained control of the state's House, Senate, and governorship in 2023, it established the Minnesota State Emblems Redesign Commission. The commission organized a contest which brought in more than 2,600 proposed flag designs. During the commission's 4-month-long proceedings, which began in September, Lee Harrell gave technical advice, delivered copies of Good Flag, Bad Flag, and provided expert testimony. NAVA member Alan Hardy informally provided commissioners with vexillographic perspectives. And when the commission members began their task of narrowing down the submissions, they invited me to present an overview of how to choose a flag design and offer tangible considerations during the selection process. My presentation slides, which were made available on the commission website, along with an hour-long YouTube video of my talk, were, quote, a basic primer on flag design and focused on themes of simplicity and recognizability. The commission moved quickly through its work. After the commission had selected 6 finalist designs, a member interested in relaying the opinions of vexillologists to the wider commission invited Brian Sham to help. A collaboration of local designers and vexillologists, Brian Sham and I, helped to refine those finalist designs until the commission reached a near unanimous consensus on the final design that became official on May 11, 2024. In Massachusetts, efforts to change the Massachusetts flag and seal percolated for many years, starting with the work of the late NAVA member Peter Orensky, who in 2003 published the negative results of an informal poll on its depiction of a Native American. In 2020, legislators seeking to spur an update asked a team at Lesley University in Cambridge, Massachusetts, to create a series of white papers outlining the case and the path forward. I consulted extensively on that project, especially on the papers involving flag design and the flag adoption process. Those went to all Massachusetts legislators. The legislature soon chartered a special commission on official seal and motto of the Commonwealth. As the state seal appears on the flag, the commission had to consider the flag as well, either by putting a new seal on the flag or designing a completely new flag. And NAVA member Micah Whitson, who had moved from Mississippi to Massachusetts, was named by the governor to the commission. However, through 2 legislative cycles, the commission has floundered without adequate funding or staffing, ending its work in 2023, endorsing change but failing to effectively propose anything. The issues have not subsided, so further action can be expected. And in other states, currently several other states have flag change underway: Illinois, Maine, Michigan, and New Hampshire. And in late-breaking news a few weeks ago, Maine's Secretary of State joined NAVA's Flag Design Forum to get advice on the design of Maine's new flag, which is on the ballot in November. Vexillologists will likely become directly involved in those other efforts as well, and are already offering opinions and mediated opinions. So in conclusion, in the past 25 years, the pace of change among U.S. state flags has accelerated. Concurrently, the participation of vexillologists in that change has increased. We have shared our flag design expertise as instigators, advocates, creators, refiners, judges, and process consultants. Several states, including Georgia, Mississippi, Utah, and Minnesota, have changed their flags, reflecting and incorporating guidance from NAVA and its members. And several more efforts are underway: Massachusetts, Illinois, Maine, Michigan, New Hampshire. Because no central authority governs flag design and adoption in the United States, the role of NAVA, through its publications, surveys, and members' efforts, has become more important. Involvement by at least 20 NAVA members can be identified in these redesign efforts. I've listed it there. This participation by members of the Vexillological community marks a significant change from the past, when we were on the outside of most state flag change. And it has delivered, I believe, a higher standard of flag design and new flags. Thank you for listening to the presentation. I think that's a great idea to have another survey of U.S. state flags, and perhaps after 2 or 3 more states change their flags, it will be time to do that. We have a 25th anniversary U.S. state flag survey for NAVA. Ironically, no Canadian provincial flags have changed in that time, unless somebody works really fast on Ontario. Or I know Manitoba, there's an effort right now to change the flag, so that might happen. So there might be an opportunity for both state and provincial flags. Thanks, Bill. And I want to say, my point about the Duluth flag is not that the Duluth flag was inspired by the Star flag, but among members of the commission who said, we're considering this as the state flag. Oh, Duluth already has something very similar, thus there will be confusion. So that might have been a reason to put the North Star flag to the side. If we were down to one seal on a bed sheet, I would hope that it's the state of Washington's flag. And people are laughing because they know what I mean. It's the only seal on a bedsheet flag with a green background, so it's very distinctive. And the seal of the state of Washington has a great big face of Washington. It really is saying Washington without writing Washington. That's right. And there's this interesting interaction between vexillography and vexillology. As vexillologists, we study flags. We don't try to change them. We are the students. We're observing them. We're understanding how they came about, how they might change. We understand the process of changing. But most of us in this room perhaps are also interested in the design of the flags, and we actually cheer on the change. And we have 2 different hats that we're wearing. One when we're being students of it and we're doing our surveys. And our surveys are not just of our members, but they're of the public. And we're reporting that back and saying, this is what the public is saying about these designs. But then we put on our activist hat, our vexillographic hat, and some people get very, very involved in the design. And it is a challenge for us as NAVA to keep those hats separate, because the public and sometimes our own members don't distinguish between them. I'm not aware of any scholarship or investigation of them. I don't know the term, if vexillology is the study of flags, what the study of anthems is, and maybe that group's focused on it. But this is an interesting area of pursuit, both studying them and then the activist side of saying, hey, this is out of date, change your anthem. Yeah, David's point is that era of 1876 to 1926, 50 years of most state flag adoption, coincides with when the progressive era occurred. And so the question is their connection. I think there's 2 things going on in that era. One is getting past the Civil War, which was fought about states' independence or states' rights. Immediately after the Civil War, and for many years, there was the idea of we don't need a state flag because our only flag is the flag of our nation. And what states got past that with things like the centennial celebrations, where there were multi-state flag displays, and then the DAR that was unveiling its new hall in the early teens and wanted a 48 state flag display, and then the U.S. Postmaster wanted a 48 flag display. Those were the impetus for states that didn't already have flags to create their flags. My state of Oregon was I think, one of the very last, if not the last, to adopt a flag in 1923. And most of those states looked at the flags that already represented the states in their militias or their regiments and just took those flags and turned them into state flags. That's how we got most of those SOB flags. Ooh, that's a tough question. Is the lack of central authority for flag design effective or ineffective. I think that if you look at our new American city flags survey, 312 new city flags that were adopted, that 30% got an A or a B grade by the public and by NAVA members, but 60% got a D or an F grade. I think I would argue that decentralization it does not support uniformly good flags. Anyway, I'll stop there. Happy to talk with you more. Thank you.